Join us for lively discussion about the A-State community. Each week, we'll meet with a variety of faculty, staff, and students to discuss all things Arkansas State University. Live from the ASU-TV studios in the School of Media and Journalism, this is A-State Connections. And hello, everyone. Welcome to A-State Connections here on ASU-TV and KASU. I'm Johnathan Reaves, and as you can tell by this, we're going to be talking about something very exciting here today. There is a lot of excitement taking place in Northeast Arkansas as we're approaching April the 8th, and this is when the Solar Eclipse takes place. And Arkansas State has some fantastic events that are taking place to commemorate the event. We'll be talking about that as we go along. ASU-TV and Red Wolf Radio will have special programming that'll take place that day as well for the eclipse. Live coverage will air from noon to 4 on ASU-TV with special interviews and live streams of the eclipse on the ASU-TV YouTube and ASU-TV and Red Wolf Radio Facebook pages. Well, joining me today to talk about this is Associate Professor of Physics at Arkansas State, Dr. Ross Carroll, and System Administrator in the College of Engineering and Computer Science, Mitchell Clay. Thank you all for joining us here today. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
Dr. Carroll, I want to start first of all and talk about what exactly is a solar eclipse and how does it occur?
Oh, excellent question. So a solar eclipse is just any time that the moon blocks your view of the sun, right? So the moon's always got a shadow just out there in space, and occasionally Earth will pass by it. And if you happen to be in the shadow of the moon, you can look back and maybe see one of the coolest things, not on Earth, but out there.
Right. And now, how often do these occur? Are they predictable? I mean, we've been talking about April the 8th and all that, but how does that all work?
Oh, yeah. So nowadays, we understand where the sun, the moon, and Earth are to such an incredible degree. We can know within seconds where these things are going to happen. Thousands of years ago, that wasn't quite the case. But now, enough nerds stare at the sun and moon. We've got a pretty good idea when these things are going to happen.
So the last one was in 2017, and this one, of course, is in 2024. Is that a short amount of time in between an eclipse? Are they usually spaced out a little bit longer?
So technically, they're more common than they're portrayed. At least 2 happen every year,
okay.
No more than 8. But most of those are partial eclipses. They're not total eclipses. Those are the majestic ones that we like to chase after. And the moon's shadow on Earth is only about 100 miles wide. So you've got to catch it in the right time, in a matter of minutes, within 100 miles somewhere on Earth. So they're rare wherever you are. Here in America, we had one come through in 2017. This one's coming through, but the next one that's coming to the continental United States is in 2045.
Wow.
So there will be more in between then. The next total eclipse after this will be in Europe in 2026.
Okay. So it's interesting how it just hits. It's not, it hits different areas. Like, this is hitting specifically in Arkansas and around this area, but it's not hitting like other parts of the United States or Europe or whatever. So it's interesting how it goes to, it's kind of goes to different areas.
Yes, and if you're even just one footstep outside of the path of totality, where the total eclipse happens, you won't experience anything.
Wow.
Basically.
So
it's a literal night and day difference.
This is one of the reasons why there's so much excitement about it, I guess.
Yes.
And Mitchell, I know you're really excited about this as well. Kind of tell us about your thoughts on this.
So the thing for me, I think, is in our area, it'll be a long time before we have another total eclipse here. It's been a long time. It's been since, 1917?
1918 was the last one
1918 in Arkansas. That next eclipse won't be coming through Arkansas. It'll be going through some of the southern states, I think maybe through Florida and places like that. Mm-hmm. So if we want to stay here to watch it, it'll be a long time again before you could do that here.
And needless to say, a lot of people are traveling into the area to be able to see that, Yes. So is that very common, though, to be able to have people who kind of travel into different areas to be able to do that a lot?
Yeah, I mean, generally we're called eclipse chasers. And there are some people who will literally chase these things around the world. There's some cruises, for instance, that'll take you out into an ocean to go experience these. 'Cause, again, most eclipses occur over the ocean because most of Earth's surface is ocean.
Right. So, yeah, that makes sense.
So they're accessible if you have a lot of funds, for sure.
Good deal. Well, I know Arkansas State's got some events going on, but you all are actually going to be not here, but you all have a specific project with students that y'all are going to be doing over in Pettigene and around that area. I want to talk to you all about that for a little while. How did you all kind of come together with this idea of being able to combine forces to be able to get students involved in the project that y'all are going to be doing?
Well, I roped Mitchell into it, kind of similar to how I got into this. In 2016, one of my colleagues approached me in the hallway. Hey, Ross, do you want to live stream a total solar eclipse from the upper atmosphere? Yeah, I dropped everything and just started working on this research, if you will. I've been hooked on it. It's a NASA-funded project called the Nationwide Eclipse Ballooning Project. So I got recruited into that, and we attempted this in 2017. And then this time around, I'm leading our team, and I roped Mitchell into it. There's a lot of neat technology behind it that he's really good at.
So tell us a little bit about what this is that you all are going to be doing with the balloon, and I'll start with you, Dr. Carroll, and then Mitchell, I want to ask you about what your parts are, because you all have two specific parts in this. I think this is really fascinating. Dr. Carroll?
Oh, yeah. So I'm in charge of the team, if you will, but we're two different types of groups, if you will. So Mitchell's leading basically his computer science students. They're dealing with a lot of the technical stuff that we need to get a live video from a weather balloon, essentially. My part of this is trying to get the actual weather balloon up in the sky. So there's a lot of pieces in it. Part of that is what we call the ground station. So it's actually a series of radio equipment that we'll have on the ground that track our balloon in flight. My job is to get everyone together and inflate a balloon that can lift about 10 pounds worth of stuff. So we've had, they look like lunch boxes strapped to a parachute. There might be like weird antennas hanging out of them and such.
Okay. And tell us about what the computer science students are doing on your end.
So the lunch boxes that he talked about, each of those is a payload that carries some kind of electronics and some kind of communications equipment. And there are different pieces of software on each end of that. There's software that's working inside of those payloads to collect data and transmit it back to ground. And then on the ground, we have that ground station that he talked about that's pulling GPS data about where the balloon is actually at, so we can point our antennas at it to get a good enough signal to get, for example, the video stream back from the balloon so that we can live stream it from the ground. But there are also things about when the balloon comes down. Each of those payload boxes carries some equipment with it so that if those boxes became separated, we can track them down and retrieve that data and get our equipment back.
Right. And so how are the students working? I know they've been working on with a lot of code and all of that. Is that right? Kind of tell us about that.
So all of that equipment that they're using, some of that was used in 2017, and my understanding is that it was all designed by students originally. Some of them for like senior design projects. And they designed the hardware, they designed the software that ran it. And some of that software we've found certain things that don't work well, or situations where the software might stop working altogether. So my students they've worked on some software of their own, or they've improved some of that software and fixed some of the bugs or added features to it that weren't there before.
Right. And so you were saying off air before we talked about this and went live that a lot of times when it comes to coding and all that with this particular class, sometimes students aren't able to see kind of the end result of that, but you said for this they will. Can you explain that, please?
With a lot of coding, they may write some kind of console programming that does some simple input or output, and they just see something on a screen. With this, they see that, yes, they can track a balloon and they can communicate with it, and there's hardware involved, and it's something more tangible and physical that they can see the results of what their code is actually doing, and making sure that code doesn't have any issues, and there's some redundancies and checks built in so that, for example, we don't lose a box of equipment.
Dr. Carroll, what are some of the data that you all are going to be, that these lunch boxes and that are going to be, looking for? How are you all, what is it that you're looking for, and how are you all going to analyze that data?
So this project we're actually one of 53 different teams that are in the nationwide Eclipse ballooning project. It's split up into 2 different tracks. So there's some of the teams are in what we call that atmospheric science track, and they fly these tiny little balloons that are just like the Weather Service flies. 1,600 of those the Weather Service does every day. These teams will be doing similar ones every hour for a full day. And what they're looking at is how the moon's shadow affects the atmosphere. It actually can create a sort of wake. And by watching how the balloons wiggle, essentially, you'll hopefully be able to see that kind of stuff. With our balloons, we're part of the engineering track. So I already mentioned we want to live stream that video. We're also going to have atmospheric sensors and stuff that we can provide to the atmospheric science folks. One of our main goals is to have a camera connected to essentially a radio that we can receive on the ground and feed that data out to the internet. The whole purpose of this is actually started by Dr. Angela Desjardins at Montana State University. So she leads this whole nationwide project. They got all the NASA funding for. The whole purpose of that is to get the public a new perspective on eclipses. So if you do experience it, you look up and you see something hopefully really cool, but you don't actually see the shadow from that vantage point of being 100,000 feet up in the air and looking back at a 100-mile wide shadow. And like Mitchell mentioned there, students developed all this technology here. It's all like different little pieces that they all put together, and it's really incredible to see what's come together here.
Yeah, it really is. I know you're proud of the students for all the work that they've been, doing. And this is a special topics class or special problems class you all have been doing. So I guess right from the get-go, are we all working on it before the spring semester started, or is this something that you've just been kind of working on specifically in this class?
We actually started some preliminary work last spring, Dr. Carroll and I, and then the special topics class started last fall. So
okay,
we had students last fall that came in, and we had the annular eclipse last fall, which was kind of a test run where we went down to Petit Jean and we launched a balloon then, just to kind of check all of our stuff and make sure things were working the way they were supposed to. So now it was kind of preparation for the April eclipse.
Very good. Associate Professor of Physics at Arkansas State, Dr. Ross Carroll, and System Administrator in the College of Engineering and Computer Science, Mitchell Clay, joining me for this edition of A-State Connections. We are the cool kids. We're talking about the eclipse. We'll be right back after this.
I think one of the things I learned at Arkansas State was life is 10% of what happens to you, 90% of how you respond to it, and that's just something that I live by.
A-State is home, and they're going to treat you like you're a part of the family.
When you say experience counts, it's experience that counts for a lifetime.
Boxes, I cannot fit in the boxes. Stop it, quitting was never an option. Exhausted, this passion is never exhausted. And you cannot stop it, nah, you cannot stop it. Quitting was never an option. And you cannot stop it. Nah, you cannot stop it.
Live from the ASU-TV studios in the School of Media and Journalism, this is A-State Connections. And welcome back to A-State Connections on ASU-TV. I'm Johnathan Reaves. Today we're continuing our conversation with Dr. Ross Carroll and Mitchell Clay about the solar eclipse that will occur on April 8th. Hope you've got your glasses ready. We'll be talking about why that's needed here in just a little bit. Thank you all for joining me here again for A-State Connections. Appreciate that. So what we're talking about is we're talking about a ballooning project that you all are going to be doing at Petit that's coming up, and so you all are really excited about that. How long will the path of the eclipse and all that kind of go through Arkansas? How is that determined, Ross?
Oh, okay. So through Arkansas, it's basically going to pass by in about 10 minutes. Right. So this shadow of the moon, again, the fancy word for it is umbra, the lunar umbra. It's about 100 miles wide. It's traveling at about 1,600 miles an hour. So from that perspective on the map there, it takes about 10 minutes to pass through all of Arkansas. If you're in one spot right on the center of the line, you'll get about 4 minutes of totality, but if you find yourself towards the edge of totality, you only cross through a small amount of that shadow. So here in Jonesboro, you can get anywhere from about 1:30 upwards to 2 minutes, 20 seconds. If you get close to the center path there, you can get upwards of 4 minutes of totality here. Our balloon is going to be about 100,000 feet in the air, if everything works right, and it'll be able to see that shadow approach basically from Oklahoma that far. We'll be able to see it in the sky for about 15 minutes. On the ground, we might only get 2.
But you'll be able to get a lot of that. And so with that data, with the analysis and all that, you were talking earlier about how all that's going to, continue on with that research. Here in 2024, you all are making some improvements and some things from what you tried in 2017. What did you learn when y'all did this before in 2017? What did you all learn to try to improve and get ready for 2024 when you tried this previously?
Well, I did. Mitchell wasn't there. It probably would have worked a little better if he was there to help out with some of that stuff. The big issue we had in 2017 was just that our live stream cut out. We didn't have a solid internet connection to get it out to the internet, and also it just flew out of range. So this time around, I think we're better poised to have it in view the whole time.
So Mitchell, I guess, as we're getting close to April the 8th and all that, what are some kind of like the last minute things you all are doing to kind of, get ready for the eclipse?
We're trying to wrap up some of the testing and make sure we've covered any cases where something unexpected could happen, especially with the software. We don't want anything freezing up or crashing last minute. And we're going through some checklists of things that happened to us last time, making sure that we have all the equipment and have some redundancy and some backups in case different things were to come up. And just making sure that everything goes as smooth as possible that day.
Right.
Sure, I don't break it.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, for sure. Now, of course, we saw on the map earlier about the times that everything is going to be coming through, and that there's a lot of events that are going to be taking place and all that around the community and around the area. There are going to be all sorts of watch parties and all that. I think Arkansas State has some stuff that's going on as well there that day.
Yeah. So, we've got tons of eclipse glasses from the Arkansas Space Grant Consortium that we'll be distributing. Again, on Eclipse Day, we'll be gone.
Yeah,
for sure.
y'all not be here for that, but there'll
Yes.
it's going to be the How the Sun event that's going on and all sorts of stuff that'll be taking place here, throughout the campus.
Well, we're actually going to an event hosted by the Arkansas Space Grant Consortium at the Winthrop Rockefeller Institute. So there's going to be various groups of researchers from around Arkansas and in the nation as well. We're we're gonna lock ourselves away in the Rockefeller Ranch for a few days.
Good deal. Good deal. So that's going to be going on. But I do know that for students on campus at Arkansas State, there's going to be, and for people, for the community as well, Arkansas State will be having some festivities that will be going on around that time throughout the day there. It's the Howl at the Sun event. So you don your glasses, kind of get ready for that as that's going to be going on there throughout the day there at Arkansas State. The astate.edu is where you can get more information on that. Now, as I've been looking here on this, I mean, these are really stylish. Thanks to KASU for providing us with these stylish glasses that we have going on. And, of course, that's one of the things that they've been saying is that you need to obviously wear these if you're going to view that. Ross, why is that important that we have these? Because I did actually hear one person ask, why can't we use our regular sunglasses? Which I think is probably a pretty good question. Why, what makes these different, and why should we use these?
Yeah. Well, I mean, technically you can just go stare at the sun. It's just not advisable, right? Regular old sunglasses, they dim that light. They're focused on visible light, not infrared, not ultraviolet. Just dim it up. So if you have some sunglasses that are really dark, they might only let 5% of the light through. That's not going to protect you from looking directly at the sun. A solar eclipse shade is specifically designed to block basically 1/1,000,000th of the light actually makes it through. They look like nothing will come through them at all. The only thing you should be able to see through these is the sun or some incredibly bright light sources. And these are made so that they don't just dim out the visible light that makes you wince and kind of hurts there.
Right.
The invisible light, the infrared that can burn your retinas, and the ultraviolet light that can fog up your corneas are blocked as well. That's why you don't use welding glass. They're not designed for solar viewing. Welding glasses are designed to protect you from looking at sparks, very bright sparks, so welding discharge, not solar viewing. So these things technically cost pennies, and it's worth getting some for sure.
Yeah, so I mean, definitely make sure that you do that for sure. One thing with the excitement on this, how is it that these events like the eclipse and all that help kind of broaden that interest in science and nature and astronomy and all that? How obviously it plays a big role in stuff like that, I would think. Mitchell?
Definitely. I remember as a kid, one of my early interests in science was I had a friend that was in Scouts, and he got the Boys Life magazine, and there was an eclipse coming, and there were directions on how to do the pinhole box so that you could view the eclipse, and we made one together, and that, to me, that was exciting. It was something I had never seen before, so it was something different and interesting, and we got to build something, and at the time, I was in elementary school. I didn't understand exactly how planets and stars and everything moved around, and that got me interested in why these things were happening. So I think for different people, it's different. Different people get interested for different reasons, but it's something like this is an event that's different, that gets people interested in different aspects of these things.
Right. I've got an example. One of my students who worked with us in the 2017 project, one of our physics students, he doesn't do high altitude ballooning. He's not doing the kind of research that we were doing in 2017, but I think that definitely affected him. 'Cause now he works for NASA. He went off from Arkansas State, went to a prestigious graduate school, got an astrophysics PhD, and now he's working for NASA Goddard as a postdoc, doing laboratory astrophysics. He's simulating like plumes of water getting ejected off of a moon of Jupiter in Maryland now.
Wow.
And this is one of those things that he's not necessarily doing that research, but having experienced a NASA-like mission, gone to a total solar eclipse, those types of things certainly stick with you.
And when you're talking about that, it really makes me kind of think about the technological advances that have allowed for better study of eclipses and things like that. Kind of tell us about how this has changed over the years by way of allowing us to be able to see things better.
Yeah, back in the day, about 150 years ago, we didn't have GPS. We didn't really have good clocks and such. And being able to predict when and where those things were at was difficult. Even knowing where you are was hard. All right, nowadays, GPS satellites can tell us where and when things are happening to an incredible degree. Back in the day, you'd have to crack out a bunch of telescopes, put them out in the sun, take a lot of measurements. You got to write stuff. It's a lot of work, and your telescopes basically bake in the sun.
Yeah.
So it's not fun stuff. Nowadays, we have apps that can just feed those times to you. So there's 4 important times for a total solar eclipse you got to be aware of. When the partial phase starts, when the total phase starts, when totality ends, and when the partial ends. Most people care about totality, those middle two. The whole thing's pretty interesting. So wear your glasses for everything except totality.
Right. And let's put that map up back again about the times, that way so people can know about when exactly that's going to be, just in case you're joining us right there. So you know just exactly where that's going to be. Around that time is when you can view that with your glasses on to be able to do that. Last question really quick. Can we learn behaviors of the sun, and are there certain things that eclipses teach us about the sun? So kind of tell us about that as we're wrapping up the show.
So whenever the moon fully blocks out the sun, our telescopes in our eyes can see something that normally is just lost in the glare. So we can see the outer atmosphere of the sun, what's called the solar corona, all right, the crown around that. That's the thing that we're trying to look personally for, and we can study it as scientists. Lots of other stuff happen there. Whenever the moon blocks the sun, you might actually be able to see a planet that's closer than Mercury. And then tons of scientists tried to find that. We didn't find one. All right, that never happened. You can actually confirm Einstein's relativity by staring at stars during a total eclipse, because the sun itself bends the path of light. So in 1919, that was actually observed during a total solar eclipse. So there's lots of stuff we can do for studying the sun, for studying our own atmosphere and how the day-night cycle affects things. And then there's just that personal experience of like everything suddenly changes. It's out of the ordinary and absolutely magic.
Fantastic. Well, that'll do it for this edition of A-State Connections. I want to thank my guests, Dr. Ross Carroll and Mitchell Clay, for joining me. Thank you so much for being here today. Just a reminder, ASU-TV and Red Wolf Radio will have live coverage starting at noon and running until 4, as they'll be live streaming the eclipse. There will be special interviews as well that'll take place. That's on April the 8th on ASU-TV's YouTube and ASU-TV Red Wolf Radio Facebook pages, both of those. I want to thank creative media production instructor Dustin Sullivan. His amazing students are behind the scenes running the show today. Also, thanks to Jacob Keene and Timmy Arquette for their help on the show. We'll be back for another edition of A-State Connections on ASU TV next week. So thanks for joining us, and so long, everyone.